So by popular demand from you folks out there that subscribe to the channel, let's talk about key date Washington quarters to look for in your pocket change. Let's start off with the 1992 coins, the Denver and Philadelphia minted Washington quarters, both of which can be worth pretty good money. These can fetch in upwards of $30. I know what you're saying, well, it costs money to grade. Maybe wait when you're doing like a bulk grading thing. So I get that if you went and got it graded, 30 to 40 bucks for a coin might not be too much of a profit for you, but that's still really good over face value. Now we're referring to the Philadelphia minted coins here, which are also known to have a lot of different errors that you can come across, which make them really, really valuable. These include off-center strikes, double-rimmed coins, missing clads, and then of course double dies. There's also an extremely rare one that's on a 10-cent Planchet. These are super rare and worth hundreds and hundreds of dollars, but something to keep an eye out for. Now the Denver minted coins had slightly more, 5 million more of them made, and the San Francisco coins we'll talk about later, those are worth a bit more, but the Denver coins are worth just slightly less, usually coming in around $20 in really, really good condition. On the low end, of course, they're worth 25 cents. Next on the list is the 1997 D Washington quarter, which is worth around the same amount. This isn't a key date, but it is kind of a good date to look for. They also have some various errors, primarily double dies and Broadstrikes you can look for on these 1997 Denver coins. There was almost 600 million of them made. So there's a ton of them out there, but if you come across an error version of this coin, they can be worth well over $100 depending on how dramatic the error is. Next on the list is the 1988 Philadelphia Washington quarter. This again is kind of a better date to look for and an important date to look for since there is almost 800 million of these out there. There's not really known errors on these coins, but they can be worth an upwards of $17 to $18 when they're in really high condition, as I've seen some raw coins sell for $15, $16. Next up is the 1985 Philadelphia Washington quarter. So only a few years previous, similar value, they can get around $18 to $20 in really good condition. High MS grades like MS63 and above can sell in more like the $40 range, depending on the buyer, of course. Similar amount minted as the previous coin, 775 million of them, mostly out of the Philadelphia mint, with only 520 million, still a lot, out of the Denver mint, and only 3 million out of the San Francisco mint, making those the most valuable out of this year. Now the next on our list, the 1974 Washington quarter out of Denver, shares a pretty good value as well, albeit slightly less than the others mentioned. There is a lot less of them out there, with 353 million of them made, and although there's not major errors to look for on these, a lack of ones in really good condition out there for sale helps make this one garner a pretty good value. They can sit around $10 pretty easily in really high condition. Really high graded ones can go for a lot more, and on the low end, of course, they're worth the face value of 25 cents. Now we get to all three of the 1971 Washington quarters, the Denver, Philadelphia, and San Francisco coins, all of which are worth a good amount over face value. These out of the San Francisco mint only have 3 million minted, but they can easily sell for $4 or $5. There's no silver proofs that were minted this year, so 1971 coins are not going to come in a proof form, but the S is worth marginally more than the Philadelphia version of this coin due to extremely low mintage of that only 3 million, whereas 109 million came out of Philadelphia and 260 million came out of Denver. Those coins are going to share a similar value though, even though there is a large difference in the amount of them that were made. Ones out of the Denver mint for 1971 usually come in around $4 to $6. Similarly, the ones out of the Philadelphia mint hold a similar value, around $4 to $6 or $7, depending on what the condition of the coin is, due to the fact that Philadelphia and San Francisco had far less of them made, San Francisco way, way less, but Philadelphia 109 million versus that 260 million out of Denver. The Philadelphia coins are a little bit more sought after, And then, of course, the San Francisco ones are the most sought after out of that year. Next on the list is the 1955 Denver coins. These can be worth really good money. Now, these are ones to keep an eye out for because only 14% of the 55 quarters that year were made out of Denver. The rest of them were all out of Philadelphia, none of which were out of San Francisco. So Philadelphia coins out of the 55 year are really not too sought after as there is a ton of them out there, but Denver coins graded really well can sell for $50+. Ones in really good condition can sell for easily $8 to $15, which is still really phenomenal for a raw coin. And they're just really sought after since so little of them were made out of the Denver Mint. The 1949 quarters are also similar value, getting an upwards of $80 to $100 in high grades. There was only 9 million of them minted, similarly out of both the Philadelphia and Denver mints. So both of those coins are worth really good money, seeing as how most of them were out of Denver, making the Philadelphia quarters a little bit more valuable. Again, there was no 1949 S quarters minted, so those are just not going to be a thing, and if you ever come across one, it's going to be fake most likely, unless you have some unicorn of an error that somehow got out into circulation and no one's heard about it in the last 70 years. These coins again can be worth really good value, so 49 coins are worth the look. Next on the list is 1938 S quarters, as well as their counterparts out of Philadelphia, the 1938, which had about 9.4 million of them made. There was no coins minted out of Denver for that year, so kind of flip-flopping up the mints. Philadelphia had an absolute ton of them made, as the San Francisco minted coins are far less for 1938, at only 2.8 million of them made. Really high-graded versions of these coins can sell for over $300 or $400 pretty easily, seeing as how there's so little of them out there. Even on the low end, these coins can sell for $15 to $30, depending on their condition, because of that low mintage. Similarly, the 1938s out of Philadelphia are worth the look as well. Even though there's 9.4 million of them made, they still garner a really good value, and the proof coins out of that year sell for an incredibly high value if they're graded well over $400 or $500 if they're in a PF64 or higher. Another great year is 1 year previous to those, in the 1937 Denver coins. These can be in upwards of $150 to $200 when graded really well, and there's only 7 million of them out there. Now, San Francisco coins of that year only had 1.6 million, so those are sought after quite a bit, as they just have a really low mintage and are extremely hard to come by in really good conditions. When you're talking high MS grades for either of these coins, they can be hundreds of dollars. Last on part 1 of this list is the 1936 S quarters. These are another super valuable one. Now, I know we're talking almost 90-year-old quarters here, but they come up as the Washington quarter is still well in circulation. These can be worth an upwards of $500 or $600 in really high MS grades. Even in raw form, these can be worth around $17 to $25, $30, depending on the condition of the coin. There was only 3.8 million 1936 quarters out of San Francisco. Denver had slightly more, around 5 million, which is still a low amount, and those are worth pretty good money. And then there was over 41 million of them out of the Philadelphia Mint, making those the least sought after of this year. But with only 5% of them coming out of San Francisco, they are going to be the most valuable to look for, and there are known errors like double dyes that make them even more valuable after you send them off to get graded. So let me know what you think about this part of the list. There's another part 2 with about 10 or 15 more Washington quarters to keep an eye out for, so keep a lookout for that video coming up in the next day or two. Check out my website, VarietyErrors.com. It's full of everything free: price guides, articles, images to look and reference when you're coin searching or collectible searching or bill searching. But of course, let me know what you've come across in your coin and banknote searches lately in the comments here, and I will see you across YouTube and other social media.